Is it just me, or do you also hate those stupid clickbait headlines that, they sound like 5 unbelievable reasons they needed a bigger boat, or scientists hate him, use this one simple trick to hack your sleep, or something stupid like that. They're super trendy right now, at least in 2014, 2015, but I imagine they're going to start phasing themselves out. Because people can see that they're just too common now, and they just seem sketchy, and the curiosity gap, they call it, between that headline and the content, it makes you want to click it so you can read what is the one simple trick, or why do doctors hate him? But then you read the article and it's underwhelming and doesn't actually talk about what's in the headline, or it's just bad. So that will be changing, I'm assuming. But in the meantime, in this project, we're going to build a little program using PHP that can turn those clickbait headlines into honest and realistic headlines. So on the outside, it looks quite simple. It's just a text area and a button, and it basically will just convert the clickbait into an honest headline. Now, in the background is where all the magic happens, but why don't we just test it out and I'll show you what it does. So I have some clickbait headlines that I queued up here in my clipboard, and I'll paste them in here and just show you how it works. So 5 unbelievable reasons they needed a bigger boat. Let's fix it. So original headline, honest headline. 5 normal reasons they needed a bigger boat. Why don't we try a couple other ones? Let's try, these 2 kids were attacked by a racist. You'll never believe who stepped in to protect them. These 2 kids were attacked by a racist. You won't really be surprised by who stepped in to protect them. So it just turns that headline into something honest. Why don't we try something that I came up with? And it's something that I kind of jam-packed all the clickbait keywords into one sentence here, or one headline. Scientists and doctors hate him. 10 simple tricks to hack your sleep. Number 7 shocked me. We've all heard things like that, so let's fix that one up. So-called scientists and so-called doctors aren't threatened by him. 10 ineffective methods to slightly improve your sleep. Number 7 is no different than the others. So obviously that's a terrible headline, but it just kind of makes a joke of all these clickbait headlines and just gives it to you straight, because that's the honest truth. When you see headlines like that, they just come up with these things that make you want to click, but it never really delivers the goods. So if you were to see this honest headline, you will see, okay, well, maybe these so-called doctors, they don't really care about him because these not so effective methods will only slightly improve my sleep. And number 7, you don't have to scroll through to see number 7 because it's no different than all of the other ones, which is always the case. So why don't we just jump in and start building this? Now, before we do that, there's a couple things. You're obviously, there's going to be some things that we haven't touched on with PHP yet. They're going to be new. So I'm going to be making you do some totally new PHP stuff that we haven't even done yet, unless you have some experience with PHP, but that's okay because we will be talking about those in the upcoming section. And it's also good to challenge yourself, and then once you get to the more theory-based lectures, you will understand how they work a little bit more. So let's jump in. A couple things you're going to want to do before we get started is add 2 files. Clickbait.php and functions.php. Function's going to have nothing in it right now. We'll come to it later. Clickbait.php is where we're going to have our HTML, and we're going to have the form, and we're going to basically build in those the PHP functions and whatnot. So start off with your define. You got your title, honest clickbait headlines. That's what we're going to call this. And then we have basic HTML, copy and paste from your previous arrays.php to get that bootstrap stuff in there, the CSS, shim and respond, and then the JS at the very, very bottom. And then we're going to work with, obviously, we're going to have the container, and then just level 1 heading, echo that title, and I just have a paragraph here with the class of lead. Hey, clickbait, turn those annoying headlines into realistic and honest ones using this simple program. That's not really, doesn't really matter. That's not challenging your PHP, but if you want to add that in there to copy exactly what I'm doing, have at it. All right, so the 2 ways we're going to do this. First way, we're going to basically code our form, and then we're going to build the PHP directly in this PHP page. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, that's one way of doing it. The other way, we're going to use the functions.php to separate the PHP out of this file so it's less messy and complicated, because if you're always building your PHP and your functions in one spot or on each page, that you're working with, then you can really lose track of where you are, and you can't recycle those functions as easily. So we'll show you the two methods. So the first one is pretty beginner, and that's totally okay, and still just as valid, but not as best practice. So we're going to jump in with that first. Start off with just some HTML. We got a div. We're going to give it the class of row because we're going to do a form, and that form we're going to give it the class of call small 8 or call sm8, call sm offset -2. That's going to center it with 8 column grid. And now form takes 2 additional attributes. First one will be action. And if I leave that empty, it's going to submit this form to this same page, clickbait.php. And here's where I could say something like submit.php or, I don't know, functions.php or whatever. This is basically, once you submit the form, where do you want to send the user and where do you want to send the form values? But I just want to send it to the same page so we don't have to go anywhere. So keep that empty, and that's what that'll do. Method is another attribute you have to add to the form tag. And it's either get or post. And post is what we want because we want to submit the values of the form to what is called the post collection. So basically it's a big global sort of variable or array that stores information in its in it as a variable. So we'll come to that shortly, but that's what you need to know. We want to post this for these form values to the post collection. Now text area, very simple form we're working with here. Just a couple things: placeholder, paste, clickbait, headline here. And then some additional attributes. We need to do class, and that will be form-control. That's a bootstrap class. Input-lg. That's just basically going to get us our bootstrap styles for a large text area. Name, this is very important. This is what you need when you're submitting a form. Each of your inputs need to have a name because that name is what will be passed into the post collection and will allow you to do things like send emails, build your program, and you can access the values of each of these inputs. So name, we're going to call it clickbait_headline. All right, and now that we have our text area, all we need to do now is add a button, and that button is going to have a few attributes included here. It'll be type submit because it needs to be a submit button, and then class, we're going to say btn, btn-primary, and btn-lg, and pull-right. All bootstrap classes makes it a button, primary color, a large one, and it will float it right. All just built right in. Now, you also need to add a name for this input as well, because it's very, very important in order for this to work. Fix submit, we're going to call it. Fix_submit. You can call it whatever you want, as long as it's underscore and it's using the proper naming conventions. Underscores, lowercase, no spaces, blah, 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 blah. You can do uppercase, but make sure you are being case sensitive. Make honest. Okay, now let's just see what this looks like. So here we go. We've got our basic structure here. Obviously, this doesn't do anything. I'm just going to add a break tag actually after that, just so we can have a little space. That looks better to me. And obviously, it's not going to do anything right now. It's just submitting the form and resetting the values. So we have a structure to work with. This is basically what we're working with. Now let's do the PHP. PHP, we're going to start out doing it built right into this file, which, like I said, isn't the best practice because, your functions and stuff are going to be just contained in here, and you can get really messy if you have just PHP all over the place in different pages. But we are going to do it like that first, just so you know how to do it, and then we'll make it better. So that's a good way of doing it. First things first, let's add some PHP. We're going to start way up here in the PHP tag, and we're just going to start up here. So first we need to check if the form was submitted, and you do that like so. So if is set, and we're going to look specifically for the post collection. So it looks like this. This is basically like a built-in PHP variable. $_post, all caps, is looking for the post collection if you have a specific name in here in the array, and we're looking for fix_submit. And that is basically looking for the fix submit value in the post collection. So when you submit a form and its method is post, like we did down here, it's going to send the information of the form to the post collection so you can grab it for later use. And so because you click the button that is called fix submit, that's going to be sent to the post collection. So it's basically saying if the fix submit is set, so if that's actually available in the post collection, then obviously the form has been submitted. And then we're just going to open up that if statement. And in here is where we're going to add some PHP. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to grab the value from the text area. Here are some notes just to show you what we're going to do. Grab value from text area in post collection, make all letters lowercase using string to lower function, and store in a variable. Easy enough. This is how we do that. We're going to call this variable clickbait, and then we're going to assign the values here. So we can simply just say post collection, and in our post collection, we're going to grab the clickbait underscore headline, which is the name of our text area down here, as you can see, clickbait headline. So it's going to grab that value and put it into our variable here. But what we want to do is we want to make everything lowercase, because when we start creating a function that checks to see keywords, specific keywords like weird, trick, shocked me, you'll never believe, hack, things like that, we want them to be lowercase so we can match them to the correct lowercase keywords, and then we'll uppercase them later using PHP. So that's using the string, so str to lower function. Basically just wrap that around like so, and that will essentially make everything in this variable lowercase. And that will be lowercase and in this variable right here. Next thing we want to do is we want to store an array of clickbait sounding words or phrases. And we'll do that, and we'll just store it in the variable called A. We're going to make an array. It's just a simple array. And let's just go ahead and add some clickbait sounding, clickbaity words. So scientists, doctors, hate, stupid, weird, simple, trick, shocked me, you'll never believe, hack, epic, unbelievable. You can seriously add as many as you want. If you know more than me, phrases, words, add them in here. Comma separate them, make sure they're in strings, and then you're good to go. Next, we want to store an array of replacement words or phrases, and then we want to make sure that each replacement is in the same order as the clickbait word you're trying to replace. And so basically it's going to be like this. A variable called B, and we're going to give it an array as well. And in here, basically in the same order, make replacement words for what these will be. So instead of scientists, you could say something like so-called scientists, or the next one will be doctors, so-called doctors. And you get the idea. You just put them in the order of these keywords here to replace them. And I'm just going to go ahead and paste those in here. And you can copy them out. Average, completely normal, and effective method is no different than the others. You won't really be surprised by. These all correlate with the values up here, or at least they will. So make sure they're in the same order. Now what we're going to do is use the PHP built-in function to compare these to one another and modify that clickbait headline to swap each of these words for each of these words, if you know what I mean. So basically, a little note here for you. Use string replace function to replace the words. Uppercase the first letter in every word using UCWords function, and then store them in the variable. So we're going to do that like so. Let's call it honest headline. And that's going to basically be, we're going to use the string replace, so str underscore replace, built-in PHP function, and the arguments you pass in, the word that you want to replace, or the word you want to replace, then the word you'll replace it with, and then the phrase. So for example, you could do something simple. If you wanted to just do one word, you could say hack, replace it with method, and then you just have a string of text. One simple hack. And that will basically store one simple method. So basically we're taking the first word, replacing it with this one in this phrase. Does that make sense? So instead of just using a simple string, we can add an array. So A, B, and we already stored the clickbait headline, and that's simply clickbait. That's what we called it up here, clickbait. So now save that, and that is the first part of what we need to do. Then down here, below the form, we want to spit out some PHP that will give us our result, because essentially it should be done now. Once you hit that submit button, it's going to run all that. It's going to do all that work you just coded, but we have to find a way to show it on the screen, and that's simple. We just do another PHP script here, and we're going to say if, and we're going to use the is set again, is set, and we're going to look to see if again the post collection has the name within it, and that will be the fix submit button. And if it does, then it will run the code within our if statement here. And basically what we're going to do is echo some text. So echo, and we could just simply just put the variable here. So we could say, what do we have up here? We have honest headline. You could just say echo honest headline, and that should do it. Well, why don't we just test it, see if I'm right. Start off here, and I'm just going to put 5 unbelievable reasons they needed a bigger boat. 5 normal reasons they needed a bigger boat. So essentially, we've built the program. It's done. But we just want a nicer way to display this. Maybe we want to show the old headline and the improved headline with just a little bit sexier styling. So why don't we just jump in and do that? We know that our functions up here work. So why don't we just make this echo a little bit more intuitive. So let's say echo, we're going to go in a string here. Make sure you use your semicolons. Strong tag, so HTML, and that's going to have the class and single strings within your double strings there, remember, or vice versa. If you're using single strings around everything, use double strings within. Text-danger, it's a bootstrap class. Original headline, and then outside of that, we're going to have a level 4 heading. And that level 4 heading, we need to concatenate the value of the variable. So I'm going to go outside of this double quote, dot, and then we're going to use the UC words PHP function, which is going to uppercase the first letter in every word. And the reason I want to do that is because we lowercased the clickbait headline, the original headline, so that we can test it with our arrays. Remember how we did them all in lowercase? Well, we needed them lowercase to test. Now we need them uppercased again, and this is where we will do that. And then we'll just say click bait, and I'm pretty sure that's what we called it. Click bait. So that's the original headline. And then we need to concatenate, so a dot, and then a double quote to open it back up, and we're going to close that level 4 heading. And then we're going to add a horizontal rule, close that string, and you should now have your original heading displayed. And I'll just add a little note here so that we can have that for reference. So use UC words function to uppercase first letter in every word, echo the variable on the screen. And now we're going to do the same deal with the honest headline, and that's going to be echo. And why don't we just copy this actually and just modify it. So instead of text danger, we're going to say text success, again, a bootstrap class. And this one will say honest headline. And instead of clickbait, we'll be looking for honest headline. Save that and remove the level 4 or the HR horizontal rule. Save it, and let's see what we've got. Scientists and doctors hate him. So-called scientists, so-called doctors aren't threatened by him. So there we go. We've officially completed the first part here we've completed the program. We built the program. It works, and you can modify it. You can add more to the array to be even more, I guess you could say, intelligent. If you added a bigger list of keywords to be replaced and the replacement keywords, you can do that. And it's all in here. But as you can see, we have a whole bunch of PHP at the very top, and we have a little bit of PHP down here, which kind of makes our HTML a little bit hard to read. Now, kind of the purpose of PHP is you can obviously talk to the server, but you can also clean up your HTML and separate things and include different PHP snippets and files from different parts in your directory. And so why not remove this and put it in an external file, have all of this PHP in an external file and just call it in. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do.